Disgusting. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. I want to say that I'm surprised by this, but I'm not. Nothing surprises me anymore when it comes to the mainstream media. There is no such thing as decency. There are no journalistic standards. Nothing, I mean nothing, gets in the way of furthering their twisted narrative. The ends always justify the means. Doesn't matter if it's global warming, which is now being referred to as climate change because winter is cooling the earth. Kind of hard to convince people that the forerunner that is sitting in my driveway is causing the planet to explode when it's 40 degrees outside. Doesn't matter if it's mythical misogyny or fighting for the already given rights for the newest letter in the LGBT alphabet. The exploited cause does not matter. The only thing that deacons at Woke United Methodist care about is furthering their own agenda. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but lately the deacons have been kind of quiet. They're like bears, they seem to hibernate in the winter. It's been a while since we have seen a mainstream story where some father named Jillian is trying to convince us that his son is actually his daughter. Now that the WNBA dump has been shut down for off-season maintenance, we haven't really been hearing stories of mythical misogyny. Lately, the media has been kind of suffering. There hasn't been this steady stream of fairy tales that they can capitalize on and exploit. Oftentimes, when the media runs out of woke causes, they've got to get back to the basics. They have got to go back to the original cause in an attempt to bring interest and traffic to their increasingly irrelevant websites. Longtime viewers of this channel, you guys already know the original cause: mythical racism. Mythical racism is the reason that ESPN created that dump known as The Undefeated, a website dedicated to mythical racism in sports. After years of huge embarrassing failure and the public completely ignoring the site, ESPN, they changed the name to Anscape or Manscape, the site dedicated to the men in the WNBA. Over the years, we have seen a lot of so-called journalists launch their mainstream careers on the foundation of mythical racism. One of the originators of this strategy, Jemele Hill, which, by the way, I know there's a lot of fans of Smelly Jemele watching this channel. I mean, look at this face. No one, I mean no one, reacts to the smell of a fresh fart quite like Jemele Hill. For all my dedicated fans of Smelly Jemele out there, I've got some exciting news for all three of you. As I was preparing this video, our beauty queen, she made an exciting announcement on Twitter. Well, KC, don't you mean X? No, I mean Twitter. X is the section of the video store that we snuck into as kids hoping we could rent night nurses from Jersey. Twitter is the social media platform that gives people like Jemele Hill a safe space to reach out to the millions of bots that follow them. But as I'm preparing this video, Smelly Jemele, she made an exciting announcement. I guess today is something called Cyber Monday. I think stores and retailers were forced to invent this holiday to replace Black Friday because they were tired of crowds of people shopping in their stores and never paying for anything. Having them shop on the internet eliminates the risk of looting. But in honor of Cyber Monday, Jemele Hill, she is offering signed copies of her memoir on mythical racism at a discounted rate. And by discounted rate, I think she means free. The publishing company, they are literally begging people to take this book. Last I checked, there was zero interest. Mike Freeman is another pretend journalist that laid the foundation of his career on mythical racism. The Star Trek version is responsible for spreading lies and propaganda at USA Today. Now, of course, in his spare time, he tries to seduce Captain Kirk with the supersized lightsaber. And if we're talking about pretend journalists making their careers in the business of mythical racism, we can't forget about Carron Phillips. Well, KC, who in the hell's Carron Phillips? Really? Really? You guys have already forgotten about Carron? I know it's been a while since we have talked about the bearded Carron. For those who have forgotten, allow me to reintroduce you to Carron Phillips. Look at this face. Do you notice the bitterness? That is the face of a man who hadn't been inside of a woman since birth. Like most parishioners at Woke United Methodist, Carron lacks gainful employment. He collects woke welfare from a site that calls itself Deadspin. Never has a media outlet been more appropriately named. Deadspin is a literal graveyard because no one reads it. The site generates interest about once a year, and every time they generate interest, the story is centered around one thing: mythical racism. A couple of years ago, Carron Phillips captured the attention of the media by having an emotional meltdown. Carron was upset because professional sports leagues were distancing themselves from Black Lives Matter. Carron threatened to get on his climate-friendly broom and drive directly to the offices of Roger Goodell to confront him on the NFL's lack of focus and intention on this important issue. Yesterday, the Raiders, they hosted the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, KC, you're not allowed to call them that. That is offensive coming from the white man. Okay, would you be more comfortable with the Kansas City Commanders? Or would that be offensive to the military? Why don't we eliminate all risk here and call them the Kansas City football team? Now, this was a very big matchup in the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes versus Aiden O'Connell. Like most of the matchups in the NFL this season, this game became painfully boring. Fans were losing interest. At one point, the CBS camera crew, they lost so much interest in the game on the field, they tried entertaining the audience at home by showing uniquely dressed fans in the stadium. And that's when the unthinkable happened. As CBS was looking for something or anything that was more entertaining than this game, they stumbled across this kid dressed as the Chiefs mascot. Well, Casey, I don't understand. What is the big deal? Well, for us normal people, there is no big deal. Fans have been painting their faces at football games for as long as I've been alive. If you go to a game in the Superdome, half the stadium has their face painted. Well, it's how it used to be anyway. You go to a game in the Superdome this season, half the stadium is empty. For normal people, though, seeing an innocent child with his face painted at an NFL game, no big deal. But to fully understand this violation of the woke commandments, you can't think like a normal person. You can't use reason and logic. No. To fully understand this violation, we must utilize the services of our woke cat. Okay, all right. Ooh, God, thing's dusty. Okay, does everyone have their woke hat on and applied? Are you feeling the juice from Don's lemons? All right, now that our woke hats are applied, let's take a look at this picture one more time. What the fuck is this? This kid is a dual violator. He's offending black people and the Guardians at the same time. That is the narrative being pushed by Carron Phillips at Deadspin. Headline at this polished turd: NFL needs to speak out against Chiefs fan dressed in blackface. Does the NFL need to speak out against Steelers fans? What about fans of the Saints? Carolina Panthers? Hell, while we're at it, since the NFL enjoys making all these new rules, why don't they make a new rule where no fan is allowed to use black face paint? That way, no one will be offended. Carron Phillips wrote a lengthy article explaining why this kid from Kansas City should be convicted of mythical racism. I made it about halfway through. I had to stop reading it. It was nothing but garbage. I even wore my woke hat while reading it. I still couldn't make it through the article. According to Carron, this kid wearing black and red face paint to a football game leads to so many important questions. Why did CBS give this fan attention? Why did the producer allow this to be aired on national television? Does this fan choose to identify as a teenager or a young adult? Who taught them that this was appropriate? I know Carron will never be recognized for intellectual prowess, but I'm assuming that he has full use of his eyes. Last I checked, Carron wasn't identifying as a blind person. It is abundantly clear to anyone with a set of functional eyes, this is a child. This kid can't be more than, 10 years old? Since Carron's asking questions, I came up with some questions of my own. Who is funding Deadspin? Who is supporting this site financially while donating woke welfare to Carron Phillips? I know they can't be profiting from ad revenue because no one is visiting this site. According to Carron Phillips, the NFL, they could have prevented this blatant display of mythical racism from happening. Now, this is where I stopped reading this garbage. You're probably wondering, how could the NFL have prevented this? That's the same question I had. According to Carron, the NFL could have prevented this from happening by banning the tomahawk chop in Kansas City and by forcing the Chiefs to change their name to the Guardians. Let's just assume for 1 second that the NFL did both of those things. How would that stop an innocent child from dressing up like Squanto? How would that stop an innocent child from dressing up like his team's mascot and supporting his team? Better yet, why would the NFL want to prevent that from happening? This kid, he loves the Chiefs. Let him enjoy his team. Plus, if they banned the tomahawk chop in Kansas City, Captain Doofus Bill Plaschke, he wouldn't have a reason to have an emotional meltdown. I know we're joking around a lot about Carron Phillips here, but I'm not kidding when I say this. This is absolutely disgusting. This dude is taking an innocent child who dressed as the team's mascot for an NFL game, and Carron Phillips is exploiting this kid to further the narrative of mythical racism. Do we not have standards anymore? I've always thought that kids were off limits. I thought that was understood. I cannot believe Deadspin allowed this to be published. This is an absolute embarrassment. But this is standard operating procedure for Carron Phillips. If I wanted to, I could dedicate a video every week to the musings of Carron Phillips at Deadspin. The reason I don't, I refuse to give him a platform. He doesn't have a large following. Deadspin is knocking on heaven's door. I refuse to bring light to his dark propaganda. But I just couldn't let this one go because this is a new low even for Carron Phillips, using a child to further your own personal narrative. I think it's disgusting, but give me your thoughts on this. Deadspin takes a face-painted child, accuses the kid of being racist. Now, normally this is where I would ask you guys some questions just to get the comments flowing on the video, but with this one, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to ask. Just sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate you guys and your continued support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.